Hi, I'm Adam Rayberg of Adam's Apple Games, and welcome to the How to Play video for Brewin USA. Brewin USA is a lightweight strategy Euro game for 2 to 5 players, plays in 60 minutes. You're trying to become the best craft brewery in the US, of course, and you're going to do that by scoring the most victory points. When someone launches their third beer, one more final round is played, and then victory points are tallied, finding out who is the best brewmaster in the US. Let's jump in, see how to set the game up and how to play it. The first thing you're going to want to do when you set up Brewin USA is check the instruction manual. There's a handy little player setup grid that tells you for how many players, how many city tiles, and how much money each player should receive. We're going to start with a 3-player game, 8 tiles, and 15 money. Alright, so in Brewin USA, bottle caps are your money. So you have these generic bottle caps. Each player is going to get a stack of 15 in a 3-player game to start the game. Each player also gets their player color of bottle caps. These are going to be used to mark your beer. When you brew your beer and launch it into the market, you want to make sure you can track which one is yours. Each player, each player also starts the game with 3 beer cards. All right, you have an opportunity to swap these beer cards out for a different style at the beginning of the game, and we'll have that opportunity again every time you launch a beer. We'll talk more about the beer cards in a second. To set up the city map, we're going to draw 8 city tiles and place them in order according to their geography. All right, we got Philadelphia, Asheville, Atlanta, Chicago, San Antonio, Austin. Now, drawing these city tiles can be random, so that you have a different number of cities in each region, which is going to make the game very replayable. Or you can choose cities that you want. I think when you start, you probably want to choose a city that you really like, and make sure that's going to be in the game. Let's see, what do we got? We got 8 cities here. We have 3 in the Atlantic region, 3 in the Central, and 1 in each of the Mountain and the Pacific regions. Great. It's time for a quick overview of Brewin USA. The game is played in a series of rounds. Each round is broken into multiple phases. The first phase of each round is the ingredient auction. Players competing to win valuable brewing ingredients at auction. The second phase, we're using those ingredients to brew and launch our beer into the marketplace. When we do that, we're going to be trying to control city locations. The third phase is the Brewfest phase. We're going to be resolving any conflict that might have occurred as a result of the brewing phase. For example, if player 1 launches a beer on Austin and player 2 also launches a beer on Austin, we're going to have a Brewfest. And then the fourth phase is the accounting phase. We're simply making sure that our breweries don't go underwater. Phase 1, the ingredient auction. The dealer creates the ingredient auction each round. They do that by flipping up ingredient cards, one by one in a column or a batch of ingredients, until they hit 2 of the same ingredient types. Right here we hit yeast and yeast. Then they move on to the next batch of ingredients. All right, 1 for each player. Water, yeast, water. That stops in water, yeast, water, because we have 2 waters. Now you have a maximum of 6 in each batch and a minimum of 3, so that worked out. All right, the next batch, hops, and we have 2 in a row. Now we have a minimum of 3, so then we're actually going to put a card face down on that third batch of ingredients. Again, 1 batch of ingredients per player. Minimum of 3, max of 6. That's creating the ingredient auction. Now we're going to talk about bidding in the auction phase. The critical things to know is that there are 3 batch of ingredients, 1 for each player. Everyone is going to get 1 batch of ingredients per round. The last batch of ingredients is going to be free. Since I was the dealer, I created the ingredient auction here. The player to my left, player 2, is going to start the bidding by nominating a batch of ingredients that we're going to be bidding on and placing an opening bid. He's going to choose this bountiful batch of ingredients and place an opening bid of 2 money for this. Now, it's player 3's turn. He can either raise the bid or pass. He chooses to raise the bid to 3. My turn, I can raise the bid or pass. I'm going to choose to pass. I can place my bottle cap on the auction tracker, showing everyone else that I passed, so now that these guys can duke it out. All right, back to player 2. Player 2 can now re-raise the bid, or they can pass. Let's say player 2 re-raises the bid to 4. Let's say player 3 now passes. He doesn't choose to re-raise again. All right. Player 2 wins the auction. Awesome. He takes his ingredient batch into his hand, and he pays for his ingredient batch of 4. All right. All right, now we have 2 batches of ingredients left. The player to the left of whoever won the last batch of ingredients is going to start by nominating the next batch of ingredients and placing an opening bid. So player 3 is going to now select, let's say, the center batch of ingredients, the 2 waters, all right? Player 3 says, I want to pay 2 for these. Myself, over to me, I can re-raise or I can pass. I don't really care about that right now, so I'm going to pass. Player 3 wins this. He pays in his 2. It's important to note that player 2 could not compete in that part of the auction. They already have their batch of ingredients. They're out of it for this round. All right, last batch of ingredients is free to the final player, always. Okay, now the other important thing is the cleanup after the ingredient auction. Money was paid into the ingredient auction. The dealer each round is responsible for allocating this money onto the map as market demand. Now, market demand you can think of as temporary victory points. I'm the dealer. I'm going to add 4 bottle caps on Philadelphia, 2 on Chicago. I could have split this up any way I wanted to, with the only restriction being you cannot place market demand on a city that already has a beer claiming that city. Okay, that would conclude the ingredient auction then and cleanup afterwards. All right, we're done with the ingredient auction and we are onto the brew a beer phase. Now, in the brew a beer phase, everyone at the table has an opportunity to brew up to 2 beers. And the first person that will do this is the person to the left of the dealer. So I'm sitting in player 2's seat right now, looking at the map, and looking to see if I can brew a beer. Now, what you want to look for is the ingredient recipe will tell you whether or not you can brew this beer, matching up with the ingredients in your hand. You need to meet or exceed the value of the ingredients. So we have a 2 of grain, 2 of hops, 2 water, 2 yeast. I need to meet or exceed this. Let's see if I can do it. I have 2 grain, 2 hops, I have 2 yeast, and I have 2 water as well. That's great. Now I also could use this card here, this organic, is a wild card that can swap in place for a hops, grain, water, or yeast. So instead of using my 2 of water, I'm going to use the organic here. All right. I'm going to brew this beer, confirm to everyone at the table that I can meet this recipe, and then I'm going to discard the ingredients that I used to brew the beer. All right. Now I'm going to place a colored bottle cap on my beer so that I know it's mine when I launch it to the market. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the market and see where should I launch this beer. Now, there are a few things you want to look for when you're looking at the marketplace. You're looking for region control. So each single column is a region that you're trying to control via majority control. If you have 2 beers in a region versus someone else's 1, you will control that region versus their 1. The other thing you're looking for is where can I launch this? So right now, if it has the icon on the city that matches back to the icon on the beer, that means that is an acceptable place to launch this beer. There are also cities that have a preferred beer style. And so just like Austin, this red dimpled mug matches back to my red and dimpled mug. That's a German lager. Austin must like German lagers, okay? What happens when they actually have the preference for the beer type? That unlocks a city bonus that either activates during the game or at the end of the game. And I'll talk more about that in a second. The other thing I want to look for is where is the market demand in this on the map. Because I actually want to take a look at Philadelphia up here. It looks kind of attractive. It has a German lager preference. It has 4 market demand on it, so I will slot my beer in. I will control Philadelphia. And if I control this at the end of the game, that would mean I would control 4 temporary victory points and 3 bonus victory points for matching the city preference of beer. Okay, after I've launched my beer, I'm going to draw 2 new beer cards and discard any one from my hand. Basically looking for style and ingredients in my and comparing against ingredients in my hand. Now the player to my left would have an opportunity to launch up to 2 beers in the brew a beer phase as well, and so on. The other thing to note about brewing a beer is that 1 ingredient adjunct may be added to each beer that you brew, but only 1. Adjuncts are things like pumpkin, citrus, berry, coffee, and bourbon barrel. These adjuncts give you a special action upon launching your beer. Pumpkin says draw 2 cards from the ingredient deck. That concludes the brew a beer phase. All right, so we're in the Brewfest phase. Now, if there are not any Brewfests in a certain round, you can skip that phase entirely. I sped ahead a little bit in the game so that we had a Brewfest. All right, we have a Brewfest between myself and player 2. I'm challenging player 2 to control of Philadelphia. I launched my beer right next to Philadelphia and said, I'm going to Brewfest you, player 2. The way we resolve a Brewfest is we compare up to 3 ingredient cards from our hands with the other player's ingredient cards from their hands, up to 3 as well. The kicker being each player gets to discard 1 card from their opponent from the game entirely. So, here's how we do it. Player 2 has entered 2 cards in. I'm going to discard 1 of his cards. It is a 2 of water. He discards my 2 of hops, and then we compare the sum of the ingredients. All right. So player 2 has a 4. I have 5 total as a sum. I would take control of the city. All right. Player 2 still is going to keep this beer in play, but it's going to go back in front of him. It can be launched in a future round at the cost of 1 money. The market demand on the city gets split in half equally, where any remainder stays on the city. Right now, 3 stay on the city, and 3 go to player 2. Now, I have the choice where I can take these as money as well, or leave these on the city. That's up to me. The loser, though, just gets that as money. Once all the Brewfests are resolved, then we're going to proceed to the accounting phase of Brewin USA. In the accounting phase, there are 2 things that happen. The first is each player wants to make sure that their brewery has enough money to compete in a future ingredient auction. What they can do is for every beer that they have controlling a city, they may either add 1 bottle cap from their money onto that beer as market demand, or they may take 1 bottle cap off of that beer and bring it back to their hand as money for use in a future ingredient auction. Early in the game, it's good to take money back into your hand. Late in the game, it's good to add market demand onto a city if you think you're going to control it at the end of the game. And potentially if you're going to control the region as well, absolutely. All right, the other thing that happens is any city that has a city bonus that is active, that has a red ring around it, triggers at this point. Now, there are some city bonuses that don't have a red ring around it or a red bottle cap ring around it. That triggers at the end of the game. This city bonus, though, triggers every round. What this does is it takes, as long as it's active and it matches, the beer that is launched here matches the preferred style on the city. This specific city bonus is kind of one that sucks market demand from other locations, right? Noted by these arrows. So it takes 1 from the city above it, takes 1 from the city below it. There's nothing there, so it's not going to take anything. It takes 1 from the city next to it. All right, so now this city now has more market demand. If a beer were controlling Atlanta and controlling it with a preferred beer style, this city bonus with a $sign and a red bottle cap would actually pay out 1 bottle cap as profit each round. After everyone has had an opportunity to make their accounting decisions and clean up the city bonus upkeep that they might be controlling, then we're going to pass the dealer to the left and play another round of Brewin USA. New dealer is going to create a new auction. Once someone has launched their 3rd beer, right, in this game, player 2 has launched 3 beers. 1 more round is played after that round, and then final victory points are counted. I'm going to illustrate how to count final victory points. Final victory points come from a few locations. Any money you have left over, every bottle cap is a victory point. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for me. I own a city, Philadelphia. 1, 2, 3. So I count the market demand here. So now I have 7. Plus, I matched its preference. So I'm going to unlock this bonus of additional 3 victory points here. I'm up to 10. I own Asheville. Asheville has 2 bottle caps on it, so that's 2 victory points, and I'm up to 12. Plus, I have majority control of this region. Having majority of control of a region will grant you victory points equal to the total market demand found in that region. This region has 3, 5, 8. So 8 total market demand. So I have 20 total victory points here. Now, white owns this region. This region is not owned by anyone. There are 2 beers here, but they are different owners. This region is owned by blue. This region is owned by maroon. And that is Brewin USA. The highest victory points wins. I hope you enjoy playing the game. Share it with your friends. And let me know if you have any questions or feedback on it. Thanks a lot. Bye.